Welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us on a snowy Friday morning in downtown Charlottesville. My name is Jerry Miller. We are in the heartbeat of a region we call Central Virginia, just a hop, skip, and a jump from Court Square and the downtown mall. Our studio sits on the corner of 4th and Market Street in downtown CVille. And folks, I'm seeing flakes continue to trickle down to the asphalt here in Charlottesville, but I can attest, and I'll ask Neil Williamson, our guest who's filling in for Keith Smith, the conditions on the roads on his trek into town from Greene to Charlottesville, and Judah Wickower, the director and producer, who's got a 3-shot ready to go, who made the trek from the urban ring right on the city-county line. I made the trek from Ivy into town. My standpoint, the roads were fine, so props and kudos to VDOT and the city of Charlottesville for treating the roads and having just fantastic preparation. I do want to highlight, as we soon welcome Neil Williamson to the show, that Keith Smith, and no, we are not jealous right now, is enjoying a Mai Tai with an umbrella drink somewhere in the Caribbean with his beautiful wife, Yonna, as they often do in December. So we have a man that is filling Keith's big shoes and then some, and that's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, Neil Williamson. We'll go studio camera, then a 2-shot, and Judah, we'll weave you in with a 3. He's having a Mai Tai with an umbrella drink. You and I are sipping coffee. Is yours ice? Is it hot?
Hot.
Hot coffee out of a Yeti. I got an iced coffee out of a Yeti while snow falls in downtown Charlottesville, Neil.
Well, when you're Keith Smith and you live the life, you know how to spend December.
That's right. Every December he does it. And he's earned it. Keith, you're watching the program. We got nothing but love for you. We'll start with Neil, then throw it to Judah. How are the roads on your way into town?
Being a planning nerd, when we, a few years back, moved, we selected a home that is located on an arterial that connects directly to the US 29. So the arterial was a little messy, but 29 was just as if it had rained, and I rode back, stopped at Airport Road to get some fuel, and traffic's moving in all directions quite well. Low volume, of course, because you've got schools closed, and a number of businesses that are opening late or work from home. Saw a number of laptops leaving buildings last night, so that they were thinking, 3-day weekend plus, sleep in, work in the jammies, and roll on. Get the work done, and it doesn't matter. So that's the traffic report.
Very nice traffic report from Neil Williamson. Judah Wickower with his traffic report. Neil's coming from Greene. Judah's coming from the urban ring, Rio, Park Street into town. Any problems?
No problems. I saw some people driving a little slow, but overall the roads are fine. You're not going to slip and slide on the main roads.
Yeah.
It's getting out of your neighborhoods that's probably going to give you the hardest time.
Yeah, I thought I was the same. Coming down Ivy Road, guys, into town. The bypass was fine. Ivy Road was fine. In fact, the most treacherous conditions I've seen so far is around Court Square, interestingly. And generally around Court Square, and Judah can attest to this, those roads are often treacherous come snow. But overall, ladies and gentlemen, props to VDOT, props to the city of Charlottesville for treating the roads and having us ready to rock and roll. All right, a lot we're going to cover on the broadcast. I'll get to comments yesterday from John Blair, some comments from Deep Throat. I see at least 2 reporters watching the program right now, a planning commissioner and a supervisor. First, why don't we start? I do this often with Jerry Ratcliffe, the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer. And if Hootie Ratcliffe is a Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, you're a Virginia Policy and Government Hall of Famer, my friend. Scatter shooting with Neil Williamson, anywhere you want to go, and then I'll adapt to you. Where would you like to start?
I think the discussion on Wednesday with the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors and the Albemarle County School Board was illuminating, is probably an understatement. So that folks understand, while supervisors were surprised, they do receive the packet on the Friday prior, so they've read. They can still be surprised. It's a double-edged sword for the school board. Really what happened was the school board came forward with something called their CIP recommendations. That's their capital improvement plan and their top 5. And for the first time ever, a new high school was the number 1 priority. It's not like it moved from number 4 to number 1. It was never on the list. And so it is a huge amount of money. and they have not yet determined where exactly it's going to be. Our mutual friend Ned Galloway, supervisor from the Rio District, called them out saying, how can you ask for this much money and not know where it's going to be? I push back on Ned a little bit in so much as the Virginia way, this is Virginia's construct, school boards do not have the power to tax. So when you're investigating a potential location, you have to spend money. And so they've identified a couple of potential locations, and they kind of need to get the people that are going to say yes to the money to weigh in on what they think, but at the same time, they can't do that outside of a public session. So while I understand Ned and the supervisors concerned that they may not have the information they need to make the decision, it's kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off to bring that in as your number one CIP with no prep.
Peter Krebs, welcome to the show. Nancy Gill, welcome to the show. Chad Wood, Jehu Martin, welcome to the show. Comments, put them in the feed. We'll relay them live on air. Deep Throat's got some comments here. I'll start with some of mine. Let's do an overview of this. $250 million high school, $250 million, folks. They're saying 230 to 240 million. Those numbers always check in low at this stage of the process. They always exceed what they plan. The expectation is northern Albemarle County, where there's a boatload of rooftops and density. The kids that are commuting from northern Albemarle County to Albemarle High School, I've heard from those parents, a lot of times are coming home after 7 p.m., so I have confirmed that on the bus. Barbersville, some even the Forest Lakes, Holly Mead area.
Generally after school activities.
Yeah, right. That's late.
It's late, but it is after school. It's not like they're leaving at 3 and arriving at 7.
Okay, I'll give you that. The parents are concerned that the commute is getting longer, not shorter.
Yes.
The supervisors on Wednesday in this joint session heard from school board members the need for doing this. One of the things that we should highlight that was surprising was, at least to the average Albemarle Countyan, was the shift away from the center model to the high school model. Do you want to set the stage for the viewers and listeners on that?
Well, the school board for the past 5 to 7 years has been touting a center model, which takes a portion of each of the schools and sends them at their choice to different vocational, quote, centers. These are really not really what we call VOTEC shops. They're much more nuanced studios, as I think is the term of art these days. And one of these is in the old Comdial building. They're building the second one in front of Albemarle High School. That's under construction now. But the concern is that the center model doesn't deal with really the true capacity issues of the existing schools. Now, of the many of the conversations on Wednesday, we're talking about Fairfax County. I think it might be more apropos to look at Loudoun County. Loudoun County made a shift in the 90s to building what I call AA schools. So what that means is a smaller high school and more of them. I graduated from Loudoun County high schools. There were 4 in Loudoun County. I believe they have 12 now. It is amazing, the change, but what does the high school look like? I haven't heard a whole lot of discussion about. To be clear, the Free Enterprise Forum does not follow the school board, so those discussions may have occurred at school board meetings that I have not watched. That being said, I think that a 30,000-foot level idea of what this is going to look like is probably a topic for a work session between the two boards, and it is there's going to be a lot more said than done, and while they're talking, they're not building. So right now, if they started building a high school today, the students that would be served are 4th graders. So 31, 32 school year. The longer it takes, the later it goes out.
And the more expensive it gets.
And when the more expensive it gets, to be fair, they did use project dollars, which is a helpful thing that VDOT started about 10 years ago, that includes inflationary costs that can be known. There are things that can't be known. You can't foresee what the tariffs on Canadian lumber or whatever it happens to be. These are generally metal-built buildings, but the reality is everything's more expensive tomorrow than it is today, and it takes longer if you wait to make the decision. That being said, there is a thing in Virginia that you have to have a demonstrated need in order to. People get really upset about having trailers in use. Learning cottages, I think, is
That's the branding.
Yes. Well, the learning cottages are almost required. You have to prove that you not only have one class that size, you have a trend to that size for your school populations. Donna Price once said in a meeting that when she was growing up, she was part of the baby boom. And they knew that wasn't forever, the baby boom. They split the school day in half. And half of the students in that footprint would go in the morning, and the other half would go in the afternoon. And that way they maximize their infrastructure. That's a fascinating story from our not-so-distant history.
Donna Price, the retired Albemarle County Board of Supervisor from the Scottsville District. She's a fantastic person. Ann Malik said, we need some clear-cut data, highlighted Weldon Cooper, if in fact the population of Albemarle County Public Schools is going to increase. The entire thesis of the presentation or argument from the school board and their ask for $250 million is population uptick in Albemarle County, and as a result, a fourth high school is needed. Malik pushed back respectfully, said, I'm not sure I'm buying that yet until I hear from a third party like Weldon Cooper that the population is in fact going to uptick. Mike Pruitt in the meeting, of course, Malik, the supervisor from the Whitehall, in her fifth term.
That's correct.
Mike Pruitt in that meeting, in his first term, he's also running for Congress. I think Pruitt's got to thread this needle the most careful. Because this man's running for the 5th district seat in Congress in a district that is very conservative, and he is, very left-wing and liberal. He has indicated in very straightforward fashion, I'm not opposed necessarily to taking some financial risk, but in this scenario, there is zero opportunity that Albemarle County can afford this. We then had a viewer and listener who is very engaged civically and politically. Philip Reese, local business owner, has come on the program well. I've been having a lot of conversations with Mr. Reese. And he's indicated that there is tremendous risk to Albemarle County's AAA bond rating should they go deep in debt to potentially fund this school. So the straightforward answer is, where's the money going to come from? Where's the money? Where are the donuts here?
Well, I think that anytime you look at a project, you have to look at funding opportunities. One that I do think is going to occur is the 1 cent sales tax. There will be a law that will be passed again. It received bipartisan support last year by the General Assembly to allow localities to hold a referendum to see if the locality should institute a 1 cent sales tax dedicated to schools construction. In the meeting, in what was one of the more passionate speeches that Mike's given, Supervisor Pruitt said, make no mistake, that 1 cent sales tax is hitting the poorest the most.
100%.
And we don't take a position on taxation, but the idea of where, I like to have a nexus for such things. So where do the students come from? Do they come from Judah buying a cup of coffee over in the Albemarle County Square? No. They come from people who happen to, live, with swimming pools and things in Albemarle County. Those are the people that you need to be, that are more directly connected to providing the material that the schools educate.
The first zing right there, I like it. I enjoy the zings. You know I do. Vanessa Parkhill's watching in Earlysville. We appreciate Vanessa Parkhill quite a bit. I really do enjoy the chat. John Blair, this is an interesting comment. This comment was so, the timing of this comment yesterday was so perfect because I knew you were coming on the show today. And this is right up your alley. And we both have tremendous respect for Mr. Blair. My son, he says this, as to the new high school, it interests me that the county has been talking about school capacity for decades. Yet for decades, no one in Albemarle County has had the ability to analyze how the land use patterns set by the Board of Supervisors have created this issue with capacity. The Board of Supervisors has created a near segregationist high school, Western Albemarle High School, due to their poor land use policies. They have abandoned everything south of the urban ring. Their approvals of housing and business up and down Route 29 north of the urban ring has created this new crisis of a new northern high school. Why is no one focusing on the land use policies that created this crisis? And then he gives us a statistic. Western Albemarle High School, its student population is 1.3% black. And then he highlights a link that backs up that statement. So he's saying this is not on the school board, this is on the Board of Supervisors and how they have architected Albemarle County's development and growth. Buy or sell on that, Neil Williamson?
I take John's comments with a grain of salt. There are two elements to that. What you're allowed to build, thanks to the permission of the Board of Supervisors, and what the market wants built. And they're not always the same thing. That being said, for the longest time, I want to say for about 20 years, Albemarle County, because of a fairly strong, and I'll use the word NIMBY philosophy, was approving very few townhome communities in favor of single-family lots with a little bit of front yard and backyard. Maybe reduce setbacks because we want to have increased density. Want to have increased density? Build multifamily, build townhouses. That's how you have increased density. Increasing density on the fringes, sure, it helps, but it doesn't help as much as if you were allowing duplexes and triplexes. And those are the kinds of things that are going to move the needle. And we're starting to see the market want those. We're seeing a large development move up just over the Greene County line of built to lease. And these are nice new product, built to lease. And that's a national trend. I was surprised to see it happening in Greene County, but the one thing I mentioned in the blog last week, I think, there's a new drinking game for Albemarle County public meetings.
I saw that.
It's you have to drink every time they say AstraZeneca. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody's going to make it to the end of a meeting if they really play that game. But I am amazed not only of how many times it's been raised in this context for the schools, as well as Emily Kilroy, when are you going to get us our next one? This is a generational thing, guys. You don't get a next one. Get this one right. And I appreciate John's comments, and I think he's right on in terms of housing types. But I also think that the political reality of Albemarle County for the past 20 years was not embracing density.
AstraZeneca, the blog post is titled Albemarle's AZ Button, and it's on the Free Enterprise Forum website. It's in the lead slot. It's a clever read as he weaves in pop culture and lighthearted references to make topic matter tied to government and policy more approachable. Vanessa Parkhill's watching in Earlysville. She watches our content often, and she's very knowledgeable. She says, in the area where I grew up, they were closing schools in the 1990s. The economy was bad. Families overall started having fewer children. Some of them have been converted to apartments. Some were torn down altogether. Our leadership needs to be very thoughtful about this. She grew up in the Rust Belt. Vanessa Parkhill. I concur. In fact, if memory serves, and I need to dig into the data, if memory serves, Weldon Cooper, it was either earlier this year or last year, released some data suggesting the public school population locally was going to decrease.
Yes, they did. If you go to the Free Enterprise Forum website and you click on reports, in the local government spending index, there's a chart in there for each of the localities that shows their spending as well as their school population in that same chart. And you'll see Charlottesville and Nelson and I think Fluvanna are flat or declining. Greene County is growing slightly. Albemarle has been kind of steady. And it is interesting to me because, as you well know, Albemarle and Charlottesville have a plethora of private school options that folks are taking advantage of, and that only increases capacity, frankly, because that takes kids that are taxpayers that are paying for schools a second time.
That's what we're doing.
To put their kids through private school.
Yeah.
So it is a capacity enhancer, and I think the schools, the private schools in our area, are excellent. I can't say enough about the opportunities that they provide, and especially for very different skill sets. Now, that being said, I am very familiar with a family that spent extra money to send their kids who grew up in Greene to Charlottesville for their orchestral program. That was their big thing. And they paid tuition to Charlottesville. So that's not to say the public schools are not highly valuable. In fact, they're one of the reasons it's an economic development driver to have high quality public schools. But it is also, I think folks see a $4.5 billion investment, and then I hear in a board meeting, well, commercial pays for itself and then some, and the residential drags it down. Well, guess what? Those 600 jobs, those people are going to have to live somewhere. So maybe we should put into the calculus the cost of having them live here as a part of the benefit of the commercial activity.
The 600 jobs have an average salary of $125,000, and that's one person's salary. So if it's a two-income household, that household will be well above the median household income of about $126,000, according to HUD. I don't buy that the AstraZeneca impact is going to impact the public schools that much. If the argument is that AstraZeneca, 600 plus jobs, and these 3,000, is it 3,000 indirect jobs?
3,000 construction jobs.
Construction jobs. I don't buy the 600 jobs that are the long jobs, the long tail jobs for Albemarle County, the AstraZeneca jobs. I don't buy that those jobs are going to drive public school enrollment. I hope that's not the foundation of the argument.
That is not the foundation of the argument.
Good.
However, you can't ignore 600 new families moving to the region.
I know that, yeah.
And if you look at this coming Tuesday, Albemarle County Planning Commission will receive a development capacity analysis, which is flawed, but that's a different conversation. But it shows 1,277 units not yet permitted and approved in the Route 29 North area, off the top of my head. That would be a significant number to have added to that footprint, and that would create a logical nexus for locating another high school on the north end of the county.
Vanessa Parkhill, that's fair. Vanessa Parkhill has a follow-up question, then we'll get to Deep Throat. Comments are now coming in quickly. This is an interesting one. Can a portion of Rivanna Futures or Rivanna Station be allocated to land for a new high school? Because Albemarle County owns that land already.
Well, the bank owns it.
The bank owns it, yeah. How much was it? 50 million?
Yeah, I think it was
between 40. I'll give you that exact number.
I think it was 62, somewhere in that 58, 62 number. But the quick answer is no under the current zoning. Oh, wait a minute, who controls the current zoning? Albemarle County. And as they showed, they can hit the AZ button and they can do anything. If they wanted to, they could, they won't. The idea of schools being located in industrial parks is a bad idea.
Okay, so you don't think that's a...
I don't think that,
okay.
I think that's not the highest and best use of the land.
Okay, 58 million, so we were right there with what our memory was suggesting. All right, so where do you think it would go? And then we'll go some next topics. Do you have an idea? You live right around here.
Sure.
Yeah.
There actually was a location that was proffered that is adjacent to the Rivanna River there at Polo Grounds Road. Right now, the county has spent a few $1 million, I think, planning a north recycling center and I believe also a vehicle maintenance area on that land that was dedicated to the county. The schools is looking at it and kind of saying, maybe, and there's another location that they are looking at as well that I believe was a proffered location that may or may not come to pass. But they had kind of winnowed it down to 2 or 3 probable locations. You need a certain footprint to put a high school because you need to have room for fields, both football, baseball, and softball. You need to have room for, the footprint of the building itself, which tends to be a larger building, depending upon what they want to do. Again, you have these learning objectives that haven't really, to my knowledge, been enunciated in how the infrastructure fits the learning objectives.
Comments are coming in. Let's go to Deep Throat. Deep Throat is not a huge fan of density and development. He says, it's pretty funny that we are simultaneously hearing a new high school is way too expensive to afford, and still people are suggesting we need more rooftops because those rooftops will drive tax revenues. Then he suggests that residential development is a fiscal loser, period. I know you will push back on that. It's a talk show. We're equal opportunity with the comments we take. Push back on that on Deep Throat.
If you take the absolute bare bones, Deep Throat is absolutely correct. Whereas you are going to get $1 from the house in taxes, you are going to spend $1.23 to service that house. Okay, well that's per property tax. When you roll in sales tax and all the other things that household creates, it's a much tighter, if not positive, in my world. If you include the jobs, if they are local jobs, then you definitely are on the positive. So the jobs revenue that's coming from a zoned area, or maybe they're working from home. Have you thought, what about that? And then there's no commercial revenue. So if there's commercial revenue, some of that should be offset by where you have to house that person when they're not working.
But the AstraZeneca folks won't be working from home.
No, they won't. And they might not be working from AstraZeneca. They may be working from other locations in the region.
Right. That's TBD.
Yes.
So we'll follow that closely. Philip highlights a 1%, Reese, a 1% sales tax increase with the referendum, should it pass, would only create an additional $25 million a year. That's not enough to pay for a $250 million school in 5 years.
Absolutely true. And the high school is not the only need that Albemarle County has in capital expenditure.
Right. Well, so highlight some of their other needs. I mean, I think this is why, and Ned Galloway is going to come on the show. Is it next week for Supervisor Galloway, or is it 2 weeks from now? So we'll talk about this with Supervisor Galloway. Highlight some of the other needs here.
Well, when you look at infrastructure, there are certain things that there's a life cycle to certain things, whether they're buildings, vehicles. Albemarle County has a fleet of vehicles, not just school buses, not just police cars, not just fire engines. All of those have a life cycle. You have to plan in your capital improvement plan to replace those things on a regular schedule. A failure to do so creates huge problems. So those are just your typical capital expenditures that have to be funded. You also have operational changes. Different equipment, different technology, these are long-term investments. And those run in the millions of dollars. So I think that when people look at the bright, shiny object of the new high school, it's not nearly as sexy as the new finance stuff that makes it so that you can collect the taxes more efficiently.
I'll throw this to you here. What really stung me on this, and then we'll go to a different topic because people are suggesting other topics. What really stung me on this was this is on the very recent heels of a 4-cent real estate tax rate increase.
And what was that 4 cents for?
The 4 cents was spread over a number of things. One of them was tied to fire and rescue personnel that were previously funded from
FEMA Safer grant.
Yeah, money tied to grants that appeared during COVID, during the pandemic, right?
They're 5-year grants
that
allow localities to pay people with this money, and it goes down by 20% each year. So They expire. But you have to, these are competitive grants.
Right.
They aren't just given out. So kudos for getting the grant.
100%.
But when you accept the grant, you also accept that in 5 years, you're going to have to be carrying this weight.
So it was fire and rescue personnel. It was a very small amount to housing affordability. And that drove a 4-cent real estate tax rate increase this year.
On top of an increase of assessment.
And on top of assessment increases. So that's why when we pay our mortgages, viewers and listeners, we've noticed that our escrow has gone up tremendously. Because it's not just the taxes tied to the house, insurance is going up. So as someone that we are doing well, our family is doing well, and still I'm seeing like, goodness gracious, what's going on here? I can't imagine what's going on with the family that's on the margin here, that's going through all this with all the other headwinds, groceries, fuel, floating debt, credit card debt, tariffs, et cetera. Eventually, if they keep doing this, they are going to completely gentrify this county. It's already happened. We see that.
We see the numbers.
Yeah.
The reality is, Albemarle County is not getting poorer; it's getting richer.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, should I answer that? Or
Sure.
Okay. But why? Because it's extremely expensive to live here. The cost of living here is in my 25 years as every year gone up.
And so, where are the poor people going?
The poor people. I choose not to use terms like the folks that are on the financial margin are heading to outer counties, Waynesboro, over the mountain, Buckingham. I mean, heck, even Fluvanna County, Lake Monticello. At one time, when I bought my first place in my mid-20s outside of college, I was looking at a place in Lake Monticello or a condo at the Villas at Southern Ridge that we still own. That's a rental. Lake Monticello, I was able to get in there at like $150, $160. Now those same homes are $400. That's now a move-up neighborhood. Fluvanna and Lake Monticello is no longer the first-time homebuyer neighborhood. They're going Buckingham, Waynesboro, and then having to commute here, which is just causing this nasty snowball effect.
Right, and the resulting ecological impact, because you're spending an hour in the car each day, and that does have an impact on our environment.
I worry about the environment. Just more concerned with some folks paying their bills. Yeah, Rob Neal watching the program, Joshua Tracy, Olivia Branch, William McChesney, Daniel Kaufman. There's a lot of realtors watching the program. Neil Williamson is loved by the realtor community. Logan Wells Clalo watching the broadcast. With a man of this intelligence here, I got to hit a number of topics with him. We are less than a month removed from new dynamics on the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors and the Charlottesville City Council. Sally Duncan about to come on the supervisor slate, replacing Diantha McKeel, who's retiring. Where did we want to begin with Sally Duncan? Sally Duncan to say that Sally Duncan is left-leaning is to say we need oxygen to survive. She will be the most left-leaning of any supervisor perhaps we've seen in Albemarle County's history.
I'm not absolutely certain on that.
Who would you say is more left-leaning than Sally Duncan in Albemarle County history?
It depends on the issue. One of the things that you find in local government is that there's not a left or right way to fill a pothole.
Okay.
And so, the things local government does don't always fall niftily into the labels.
Okay.
That being said...
Okay, how about rephrase?
Sure.
I'll rephrase. You've been here, how long have you been here?
I've been in the community since 99.
Okay, so 99, so very close to me. I got here in 2000.
Yes.
So 25 for me, soon to be 26, soon to be 27 for you.
Yes.
In my soon to be 26 years, I've never seen a supervisor run a campaign that is legitimately, if you vote for me, I'm going to raise your taxes. And that's what Sally Duncan did.
And how did that result
She
turn
crushed it. She dominated. Maybe that's what Albemarle County wants. That's the point Neil's making right there, right?
The idea is that I firmly believe that Ms. Duncan had the support of Diantha McKeel and her endorsement. And I don't think you're going to see a huge shift philosophically on the board, switching out Diantha McKeel, who's been a public servant for forever, it seems like.
4 terms?
4 terms, and then 4 terms on the school board,
right,
or more. 12 years on the school board prior to that. So I think that...
So she's been nearly 30 years serving Albemarle County.
Nearly 30 years serving Albemarle County in elected office. will miss her wackadoodle ideas, which is her buzzword when she has a bee in her bonnet. But I think that Sally will be bringing a different perspective, a different age group, clearly. And I think that though the philosophical shift won't be that dramatic, I would say that on some issues, especially as Supervisor Pruitt runs for a Democratic nomination, you'll see more left-leaning things from Supervisor Pruitt than you might from a first-term Sally Duncan.
And this is also something to consider with Fred Missel crushing Scott Smith in my district, the Samuel Miller district. This might be the most pro-development board I have seen in my 26 years in Albemarle County.
I think...
You disagree with that, or you agree with that?
I probably want to change your words.
Okay.
I would say that this board is positioned to potentially be the most housing-friendly board. I'm not positive pro-development is the term.
Is housing-friendly and pro-development, aren't they brothers and sisters?
They are, but it's slight differential.
Okay.
I do believe. I continue to call, and I will continue to call for expansion of the development areas.
Yeah.
And I have not seen that that's going to happen.
Well, if I haven't seen a climate where the expansion of the development area is more potentially better received than right now with this board, because I think Pruitt is all about it. I think Sally Duncan is all about it. I think Ned Galloway has been, and I'll ask Ned about it, I think Ned Galloway is there. And then it's going to come down to, Malik is no way Jose. Okay. B. Lapisto Kirtley's no way Jose. It's a Fred Missel, deciding vote here. Missel, and I haven't been able to pinpoint Missel's ideology on this, but if Missel jumps over to the Galloway, Duncan, Pruitt side of the fence, you may see what you've been pushing. I've seen you push that harder than anything, right?
It has been a key tenet to what we see as a government-created scarcity of housing.
I push back on that. I think it's,
how can you push back on a government-created? Who created the lines?
I think these. Okay, here's how I push back on this. The supervisors, with maintaining the 5% development area, are doing what their constituents want. And Albemarle County, for as long as I've been here, has prided itself on green space and not wanting to turn into Fredericksburg, or was it, my friend? Is it Loudoun County for you?
Loudoun County has an aggressive rural preservation program, especially in western Loudoun County.
Okay. The concern is, this is one of the few spots you and I respectfully disagree on. I am very much a fan of the 5% development area, and it is stuck in my bonnet. Your phrase, Diantha McKeel's, wackadoo here. She came on the program and said, until the 5% is at full capacity, why would we expand it? And then Neil's going to respond, we can't expand the 5%, we can't go balls to the wall with the 5% because of the topography issues associated with that 5%. So using the argument that until the 5% is at full capacity is fool's gold.
And nothing happens absent a willing property owner.
Yeah.
That's a very key part of this ideal of growing up and packing everybody in. Until you have a willing property owner, nothing happens.
I will say this, you have some leverage on your side here with this AstraZeneca thing and 600 potential new people moving to the area. And I think many of the 600, and Ann Malik's not going to want to hear this, but many of the 600 are going to be new to the area, and it's not going to be folks that sourced from the area for these 600, $125,000 average jobs. I think we will have a housing, and even more of a housing crisis.
And on the higher end of those jobs, where do you think they're going to live?
I think those guys, it's going to, and he already knows the answer. He's giving me rhetorical questions, which is why I love Neil here. I think those 600 are going to put tremendous pressure on western Albemarle County, on Ivy, specifically. I think some may consider the proximity of Earlysville and northern Albemarle to their work. And as they pursue housing and those four pockets, Western, Ivy, Earlysville, and that Forest Lakes, Hollymead area, it's just going to create this trickle-down effect where the people otherwise pursuing housing in those pockets are then going to consider housing in other aspects of Albemarle or Charlottesville, and then it's unfortunately going to push even more of the middle class and lower middle class socioeconomically outside of Albemarle and Charlottesville.
Well, and this morning before his first Mai Tai, Keith Smith posted that he projected Greene County to be the #1 production for production of housing units in 2026.
And we are excited, and soon we'll be launching here on the I Love CVille Network a partnership with Stanley Martin. And Stanley Martin, he knows this as well as anyone, is leading a lot of that development in Greene County.
Stanley Martin is a high-quality producer and has been involved in the community for some time.
Yeah, right. Let me throw this to you. Water in Greene County. You put this on my radar, and I would imagine you also send this to Sean Tubbs, and it led his newsletter a couple days ago.
Greene County on Monday learned that they had received a $13 million grant from the state. Now, one of the benefits of success is if you don't care who gets credit. There are a lot of people that have done a lot of things to make that happen, including lobbying the General Assembly to enact this, and it was really enacted for Greene County and Bowling Green. That brings the grand total of grants to $15 million that Greene County has received for their water supply plan. Next Thursday, I think it's Thursday, Greene County will break ground on the water transmission line that's going to connect the White Run Reservoir, which will also be breaking ground on, to the water treatment plant and the Rapidan River. So it'll be, it's moving. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, this is something that I've been tracking
for a long time,
since 2012. And it has so many supervisors involved in it throughout, including folks like Bill Martin, folks like Steve Catalano, that have been now resized the particular project to about half, a little less than half of more than half of what was originally projected, but still enough for a 30-year water supply plan, which is the metric that most water supply plans are used. So I give a lot of credit to a lot of people. One person that I think doesn't get enough credit is Terry Biggie, who's the grant writer in Greene, who literally, when Greene endorsed moving forward with this, I heard one of the supervisors say to Terry, said, "Are you staying late to finish the application tonight?" And she said, "I'll get it done tomorrow, I promise."
Unbelievable. Couple more points here with about 10 minutes left on the program. City Council, Charlottesville, Jen Fleischer in, Brian Pinkston out.
I think that will be probably a more interesting, what I call organizational dynamic. 100 years ago when I was in school in Southwest Virginia, we studied organizational communication, and when you change one person in a 5-member panel, you change the dynamic of the panel. What alliances do you see coming about based upon what you know about Jen Fleischer?
I'm still trying to get more intel on Jen Fleischer. I do see Jen Fleischer, Natalie Oshrin, and Michael Payne forming a pretty strong alliance. A friend of the program and neighbor here in the Macklin building, Lloyd Snook, appears to be the man looking, from outside the fishbowl. I think Juan Wade is going to be more in line with the Payne, Oshrin, Fleischer side of things. I'm curious to see who's the mayor. We have a bottle of $75 brown juice on the line here. Judah Wickower, Keith Smith, and I. I say it's going to be Payne. He's got Natalie Oshrin. Keith Smith's got Juan Diego Wade. Unfortunately for my friend who's drinking a Mai Tai right now in the Caribbean, Keith Smith, and no, I don't feel that bad for him. I think he's about to fall to 1-9 overall with his prop bets on the I Love CVille Network. I think Judah's got a very good chance of winning this with Natalie Oshrin. I think I have a fair chance to win this with Michael Payne. But I think it'll be a Fleischer, Payne, Oshrin show. What do you think?
I think that's a possibility. I think that when you have three or four folks kind of in the same philosophical area, you tend to have shifts on boards and commissions. And so I'll be interested to see how the supervisor, the new counselor's health care background impacts her decision-making as a counselor.
Anything else we're missing? Do you want to touch at all on any other news that's in the cycle? Do you want to touch on the 10 plus million with remodeling for the homeless shelter on Holiday Drive? You spoke before council on that.
I did.
I found your presentation, you're speaking compelling, and it's also a blog post on Free Enterprise Forum, almost verbatim. If you'd like to read it, viewers and listeners. Anything else in the notebook?
I think that the manner in which the city and county deal with what has been an intractable unhoused population is going to be part of the strong storyline in 26. You're going to see Premier Circle open as well. And I think that the time for study has passed and they're taking actions. These actions are going to cost money. And the question becomes one, is the city council positioned to, once the new unhoused center is open, then revisit this camping ordinance that was thrown out rather quickly?
It has to be.
There are those that think it has to be.
It has to be.
And there are others that think it can't be.
The older I get, I try to be more listen to learn here. How can anyone stand on the argument that once you spend $10+ million, 6.2 to purchase on Holiday Drive, and many millions more to remodel and to upfit and outfit for a homeless center or campus with wraparound services, that we then don't utilize policy to make sure that's used, and the downtown mall is not cleaned up? And busy. We're both pro-business guys. Our colleagues, some of these are really good friends of mine, people that we know firsthand, you two, are past the point of asking or employing or making arguments for. They're on their hands and knees begging Charlottesville to do something.
Compassion with courage is what the line that I've been hearing.
That's a great one.
And I believe that it needs to be that. I also think that there are significant challenges ahead. Storyline in 2026, how do the ambassadors work out? These new folks that we're hiring for the downtown mall.
From Louisville.
From the Louisville company.
Yeah.
That is coming in to do this. How does that work out? They've actually been dissuaded or are going to be actively discouraged from engaging with the unhoused, but instead alerting the proper authorities with that concern.
But Kachis has indicated, and he watches this show, that he can't do anything now.
Understood. It is a vicious circle then, isn't it?
Yeah, then it leaves it to the merchants, and the merchants and business owners are like, we can't do anything about it. It is a vicious circle. Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, Tom Powell has asked us to highlight the toy lift. It's going on right now at Fashion Square Mall. He's watching the program. He's the founder of the toy lift. Rain or shine, snow or shine, Toy Lift is serving this community right now from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Fashion Square Mall. Toylift.org. Support this organization, this nonprofit, folks.
If you can't get out, you can donate online, toylift.org.
And you should also donate online, ladies and gentlemen, to the Free Enterprise Forum. Yeoman's work. The man is just an awesome guy. He's Neil Williamson. Free Enterprise Forum, guys. freeenterpriseforum.wordpress.com is a company that uses WordPress for its clients. It's a content management system. I love that George is a WordPress blog as well. My friend, some closing thoughts.
I must say that as I'm going into the year end, people ask, well, are you optimistic or pessimistic? I remain optimistic.
You're always optimistic.
I believe there's no one in business that isn't an optimist.
Amen, brother.
You have to be an optimist to be in business. I firmly believe that the greatest gift that we have as a community is our community. And we are stronger for our diversity. I think we can grow stronger with a diversity of housing types, and we can grow more diverse and more better, as my grandfather used to say, moving forward. I think the best days are ahead, and I am thrilled to be in this seat for another year doing this work.
I love this guy. Neil Williamson, President, Free Enterprise Forum. Thank you. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Content creator, policy and government follower, an all-around A-plus guy. He's a guy that if you create content like us, you want to have sitting alongside so you can follow his lead because he understands the concept of what we're trying to do here. Judah Wickower is the Elmer's glue of the network, the glue guy. Thank you, Judah Wickower. The I Love CVille show, ladies and gentlemen, is up at 12:30. Thank you kindly for joining us, and so long.